Let's go ahead and start. Over here, and let me get that out of the way. There we go. Over here in Blender, we have a scripting tab, and with the scripting tab, we can write a program here and run it. Now these programs do different things. Yeah, go find an example. They have scripts that go through and create cities. Now sometimes this is just a direct Python script you can run, and we'll talk more about Python here in a little bit. Sometimes it's an add-on that has a little bit more functionality. Here's one that builds a city for you, and you'll see it has considered an add-on, and it provides a lot more flexibility in terms of the density of your buildings and so forth. An idea is that you can use it to build a city. You could even bring that city into a game then. And your characters could interact with the buildings. So if you have a 3D character running around here, the 3D character would not could not go through a building. You'd have a collider under of some sort. And it shows you roads. This one does. Um, Different layouts, how you can place your buildings. And what I just indicated, the most important part of all, efficient export to Unity. So instead of designing each one of these from scratch, perhaps spending 6 months designing your city, you can instead maybe spend 30 minutes, maybe an hour, going through the settings, designing your city, getting exactly like you want, then easily exporting it to Unity. Now this is one you have to pay for, and you'll probably find it has a lot. I never have used this one because I used the free ones when I could. Um, but I'm assuming that it has a lot more flexibility than the simple free ones you can find. This looks like an OpenStreetMap. Let's see. Hmm. I'm not sure where the download would be for that. There's other ones besides cities. Well, that's what I thought. Then I thought, what's that have to do with the blender? Yeah. Um, Maybe I'm confused now with another one. So I did a workshop on maps. Yeah, OpenStreetMap is right there. And so I'll have to look at that closer. I didn't remember there being any export to Blender, but maybe there is. Export. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. It's built by the community and shows a map of whatever. It's interesting. If I remember right, I think if you go to China on this, yeah, I guess I'm wrong. I thought China, Beijing. How about oh, I went to Mexico. Beijing. Not even close. All right, close enough, I guess. Um, you go to some of those, and they'll have the that particular country's language in there too. Though there's some I think that just had the Seoul, Korea. Yeah, yeah. I remember this didn't have the English version. So yeah, I don't know how that's used in Blender. I'll have to look at that. But there's free ones out there. Blender tree generator. What if there's a star generator? Nebula generator. So lots of free ones, and all of them go back to the same thing. They have programming behind them. Now we're not going to learn how to, the purpose of this class, not spend that much time on the programming side, um, but we're going to learn the basics of using Blender with Python, the programming language. And we'll do it through this website, w3schools.com. You don't have to install any software. Um, Fantastic for learning something new. You scroll way down, and then you'll see on the left side programming section says Learn Python. So click that. And I'll assume that you don't have any programming knowledge, Kyle. I know you have quite a bit of programming knowledge, so this might be kind of boring to you. But some people taking the class have never had programming, so I have to run on that assumption. Now, a programming language is a way for us to tell the computer to do something. Um, we have interfaces. So you have your interfaces here, and I can do GX, um, GX, move it along the x-axis like that. You can do GY, move it along the y-axis like that. Those are ways for us to tell the computer to do something. Specifically, they got it very tailored down with specific commands and what we can do. With programming, you can go beyond that. It gives you a way to talk to the computer, tell it what to do, and have a lot of flexibility. So you're not limited to the features the of the site over here. You can perhaps even use features, but combine 500 of them in one program. Um, if you think about a city, we got a block here, bigger like that. If I go into edit mode, go into face, select that face, E for extrude. Oops, try it again. E for extrude, and then move it up like that. You can start manipulating this. And you can build whatever you want with the tools. Well, it takes a while. Scripter would allow you to perhaps do this same technique efficiently. Maybe you could do it against 500 buildings, where you're designing a building, just some extruding and so forth. You have to think that a computer program is just a way of automating a lot of things you do by hand anyway. So if I'm sitting there doing this by hand like this, I could automate it in some manner. And it's with the speed of the computer, all of a sudden, this building these buildings take you forever by hand. You can do it in just a matter of seconds, in some cases, or maybe 30 seconds. Okay. This focuses on showing it by examples. Here's a run example. Very simplest program you see in any language is called this Hello World program. And I thought that could, let me change that here. That's bizarre. Well, this may just be good for just showing the programming, which is not bad by itself, but I was hoping we could actually change somewhat. Sure enough, they're all just run examples. There's no try it type of deal. Okay. Let's come back here to comments. The print just prints to the screen. One of the things that I'll ask you to do as we get into the programming, we'll have our one and only test of the course. I'll ask you to use an if statement of some sort. I'll ask you to use a for, and ask you to use a while. And you'll do that over in Blender. Because when you go to the scripting over here, you see there's a new option here. And here's your Python code. Goes right here. And then you see there's different options you can have here. Open shading language. I don't think I ever used that. See, there's a save as, and here's a run script. So we're going to do this all within Blender once we cover some of the basics. Okay, so I come up to somebody, and I want to convey information to them. Then I can do a hello world. And that just seems so strange you can't change this. Everything else in W3 schools you can change. Comments, where you put pound signs. This has nothing to do with the program running. It's just commenting what you're doing. By the way, some things you can do over here just straight Python. Some things you can't. Like I don't think print will work. But in all honesty, I've never tried it. Yeah, see, it says missing parentheses and call. Oh, so save and run it. And okay, that's our previous one. And see, it didn't come back and tell us anything. Let me clear that off. Yeah, I didn't clear that. There, watch it. I don't know how you clear this down here, but see, it ran the script. No errors, but didn't print anything because you don't have the same interface. Um, we're going to see we're going to have to put text in a certain way to get our answer back. Um, the other main package, Maya, it uses Blender also. It's kind of the standard. If you're going to go into work with any kind of animation package, Blender is the one they seem to all have adopted. Maya used to use one called Mel. It was a scripting language. Again, because if you're trying to create something on a large scale, then you can't do it by hand, or you shouldn't. Although there's better ways than bringing in 1,000 models. If you're trying to create 1,000 orcs, um, you wouldn't design each one individually. Um, we know that if you have worked with Unity at all, we know there's something called prefabs. You can bring in an orc, maybe three or four different orcs and how they look, and then you can use an array of prefabs to have 1,000 of them. Okay. Multi-line comments I'm not going to go over. Variables. You see here I got x equals 5, y is equal to John, and so forth. And I'm going to bring up the package, just show it to you. I think I have it installed on here, hopefully. This is Anaconda. It's got a package in it called Spider. It's not that fast of a package anyway, but it's this is the first time I've run it since I reinstalled everything on this new laptop. Thanks for installing. Don't show again. Okay, here's Spider. Okay, let's see if I make this bigger. There we go. Now up here, I'll do the menu since this is so small. You see there's a run, and that just prints hello. Variables. If I'm trying to remember something, like I got to do something later this morning, I got to call somebody. Um, my brain has set aside a portion of it so I can remember that piece of information. We remember a lot of information in our brains. So we got a lot of variables spread throughout our brain. There might even be a little bit more than the equivalence of a variable, because it might be semi-permanent memory. It might be more like a hard drive type situation, though there's no platter spinning in our head. Um, could be that the equivalent of a variable would be a piece of information that you saw, but you don't care to actually remember. It's not that important. Maybe what the moon looked like last night. That was nice last night. Um, looked beautiful, and so forth. But a week from now, you're not going to care. Variables are such that when the computer is done running the program, the variables are no longer available to be used. So you can't access them. They don't retain the information, nothing. Let's say A is equal to 3. And then let's try print A and see what we get. You see it prints a value of 3. Now, when I say A is equal to 3, that's allocating memory for A. It's setting it equal to 3, and it's an integer because 3 is an integer. In Python, you don't have to declare your variables. I don't even know if you can. I don't remember. Nothing like that. Hmm. Let's see what this says. Doesn't say anything about it. I don't remember ever declaring a variable in Python, but some programming languages allow it. Visual Basic was set up initially such you didn't have to declare the variable. Didn't say it was an integer, didn't say it was a double or anything like that. And it was fine with that. That's called weakly type language, though. And a lot of people don't like weakly type languages because it creates issues with your programming. For example, A is 3, B is 2, C is equal to A divided by B. Now print the value of C. What do you think that probably give you? Could be, if it's intelligent in that way. Or it could think this is an integer, and 3 divided by 2 gives you 1. Different program languages handle that differently if you don't have to declare your variable. So if I run that, this one gives us 1.5. So again, this is why a lot of people don't like these weakly type languages. Is you don't know necessarily what it's going to do. How's it going to handle when you got two numbers of a certain type? Is it going to give you a different type or that same type? Now, for those who have never had programming, an integer is a number with no decimals. You can think of it that way. So that's an integer. This would be a double, or some program languages refer to as a float. This is a number with a decimal. And this is referred to as a string. String is a any character, alphabetic or not, or numeric. Can be special characters, but it's enclosed in the double quotes. Some programming languages allow you to do single quotes, like that. Well, let's run this and see if it likes that. And it did like single quotes. So again, you have double quotes, single quotes. Those are our three main types we're going to use. Let's see if I can find a Blender documentation. There's one. This is checking area.type. And at equals, we're going to see is checking to see if it's equal. And this is a string. So it has single quotes around it. and that's a string. Now, these are technically strings down here in this next line override, but I think they're used for a different purpose there. In some cases, you'll see a number. I don't think I'd probably find one of those easily. But let's see. Yeah, I don't see one. But example integer. Yeah, I'm not going to waste time searching for that anymore. But anyway, that's those variables. Well, what can we do with variables? Well, you not only just assign them values, but you can do calculations. For example, let's say I want to find the average of four numbers. Thirty plus 24 plus 28 plus 35. Then I can do a divide by 4 and print my average. So if I run that, you see we get 29.25 is our answer. Now, our order of operations that we had back in algebra, whether it's college algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2 you had, but the order of operations we had way back when applies here also. We know to find the average, we have to add first and then divide by your count. So I put parentheses around that because if you remember order of operations, parentheses forces you to do whatever's inside. Multiply is represented by the asterisk. That's above your 8, which is your shift 8. Of course, divide, we've already talked about, but that's your slash like that. And of course, the addition, subtract is your subtraction. Exponent, I don't know. Let's see. Some program languages use the caret. Some you have to do math, how, and then there's some that are a little bit different. Try that again. I didn't expect that. I expect either 25 or an error. Try to add them together. If it adds them together, that'd be a 9. A 1. Okay, now I'm as confused as can be about what that symbol is, but it's obviously not what I'm wanting. Let's see if it's math.pow. Math is not defined. Might have to import it. Asterisk, asterisk. I forgot that. So 5 asterisk, asterisk. There's our 25. So those are your basic operators to use for it. Now I was saying that I may have to import it over here, and before we get into the Python, that's part I'll have to refresh my memory on, because you do import here. Import BPS dot something. Now beyond that, you can just do different things to learn. For example, I got this. You do a G for grab. And I moved it. This right here is my command I just did. bpy.ops.transform.translate, and I moved it. So if I have that copied, you paste that in. And assuming I can do the import right, import bpy.ops asterisk. Example, Blender script, import bpy. Just import BPY. I'm sure there's more than that. Okay, so I move this over here, and then I run this. See how it moved? Does that make sense on where we're headed with that? So it's invaluable to do stuff over here, copy the code, and then make your changes. I could declare X position is equal to 3, Y position is equal to 5. Z position is equal to 0. And instead of having these values here, we should be able to put variables in there in some form. Some places there's no variables. We'll see how this works. So the run script. Yeah, I may not have liked it there. Put a dollar sign there. Okay, I don't remember. There's some way you got to do that to tell it's a variable. But that's where we'll be using that at eventually. You can have you can have loops. If I wanted to create 100 cubes, come down here and delete this. Again, how you delete an object is bpy.ops.objects.delete, and then use global equals false. Here's how you add a mesh, specifically a cube. That's this part right here. Okay, so I put 0, 0, 0. Enter edit mode, so you have them go into edit mode. Size of the cube. If I were to look up for loop for x in range 0 to 100. Enter. There is no braces in Python. It's based upon tabs. I don't even know if I need to colon there. But if I press an enter, see where my cursor's at? You can't do a backspace. That's where your code should start at. Now if I run that, like something there. System. No way to clear that. I'm pretty sure I don't got my for loop right. For xn, Just doesn't like something there. For X in range. Oh, deleted one object. Where did that come from? This new version, I'm going to figure out where the error message is going to. So I'm looking. Oh, here it is. Maybe that's it. Clears not defined. I don't know. Okay, so let's run that now. Okay, there it ran. And I just created 100 cubes. What the problem was, that's probably why it wasn't working the first time, is I had a space. X position equals 3. Can't have a space there. It's very picky about that. I had to have it left aligned. Let's see. Let's say Y position equals 0. Z position equals 0. Then for my location, let me just put in the variables in now and see if that's what was wrong before. X, Y position, Z position. Now if I run that, yeah, that was my original problem. You can see programmatically, I created all these cubes and I moved the position. So you can have the position going around in a circle if you wanted to. So there's lots of different flexibility with this. There's how to make that bigger. Questions on that right there? Okay. Let me copy that and start a new file. There we go. Okay, so starting over, I got back one cube. Like I said, you could have whatever you're trying to achieve right here. X squared plus Y squared is equal to 9. It's equal to 25. This is an equation of a circle. And if I solve this for Y, So y squared is equal to 25 minus x squared. Then y is equal to square root of 25 minus x squared. Although there is a plus or minus there too. Now, the x values here, you can do a range of going from one value to another value. So if I wanted to go from 0 to 10, for example, something of that form. I think that goes 0 to 9. I think it goes one less. So then down here, I could control better. There we go. Our x, y position, z position. Z pushes position 0. I need to calculate the y position based upon what x is going to be. And so I could say y equals. Now here I don't know how to do a square root. I'm just going to type square root, see if that works. 25 minus x to the second power. So then here I'm going to put y. Let's run this and see what happens. Doesn't like the square root. Oh. Must be maybe an external library. Inbuilt function. Math.square root. That's what I did. Maybe I did uppercase. Or maybe I didn't put the math on there. Okay, let's try that. Math.square root. Square root is not defined. Math dot. Math is not defined. There it is. I need an import. Now, what an import does in programming is it brings in the code you're going to use. BPY is code that brings it in such that I can work with the mesh on there. So then down here, I want math dot square root. And you see them going in a semicircle there. If I had to go from -9 to 10, and did an edit or text run script, nothing like that. Oh, because -9 doesn't work in here. About -5. 2, 6. There it goes. Now I could also have another bit of code that does the -y. So do -1 times math square root. Now I haven't gone over a lot of the details of this yet. I'm just trying to show you where we're headed and how we're integrating these. Is there any questions on that so far? Oh, have you in programming? Well, that's pretty cool in Python, huh? Python's a fantastic language, which is why they've adopted it for this, because it's so easy to use. They don't care that it's not strongly typed, that you can use variables on the fly like this. They just want to be able to easily use it. By the way, the reason why my -9 wasn't working, I'm not even sure why the first one was working, to be honest. It might have been working to the point it blew up. Is the domain, when you got square root of 25 minus x squared, the largest x value you can have is 5 or -5, being the smallest. Because 5 squared is 25. 25 minus 25 would give you 0. When you go above that, you get imaginary numbers. Because you put a 6 in there, 25 minus 6 squared, 25 minus 36 gives you -11, I think. Yeah, -11. And can't have a negative number inside of a square root. I think there's a game. What's the name of that game? You ever play a game where you can build things, like you can put blocks and build a castle and Minecraft? Oh, yeah, you can. There's a book. I have this book. Learn to program with Minecraft. It's where you can use the Minecraft API, and you can program things in Minecraft. So I did just enough to play with it and realize what was possible. Um, but like if you wanted to build an entire castle in just 30 seconds type of deal. You go through and write your for loops and so forth, and it would place all the that. You could have spacing wherever. Um, you could throw randomness in there. So there's a lot of possibilities. Okay, we'll go back to W3 school. Where's that? Okay, we're talking about variables. Now you've seen where you could potentially use them at. Talk about those variable names. Um, Cannot have big part is you cannot start with a number. You cannot have spaces in it. I see people do spaces. I've seen that already a few times this semester. So can't have spaces. These give you the guidelines. So if you never programmed, I'd recommend going on here and reading through these guidelines. Even though it's a weakly typed language for the most part, it still won't let you do some things that Visual Basic would potentially let you do. Like here, you got x equals 5, y is equal to John, and you want to print x plus y. Well, the x plus y doesn't make any sense when you got one of them that's a string. So that's why it gives you an error. It says, hey, you got an integer, a number with no decimals, and you got a string. And if you try to do a plus on it, then it says, hey, I can't add these two together. Visual Basic, I think, assumes that since one's a string, you want to concatenate them. And so it puts a number in front of the name. Global variables, we might talk about later, but definitely don't need them now. Here, start the exercise. I wonder if that let us. No, no, that's just a. Okay, we talked about some data types already. There's more than just the three I mentioned. Again, the string, the integer, and they refer to this as float. Some books call it double, or some languages call it double. Um, Talks about how to get the data type, set the data type. But sometimes necessary. If you're sitting there and it's assuming you're working with an integer and you really want it to be treated like a double or a float, then you need to set the data type on it. Python booleans. Now, boolean is true or false, and the symbols we'll use for these conditions is like a greater than. Now, this does not say 10 is greater than 9. So it's not specifically stating that. It's stating some kind of expression, and it'll return true or false. In this case, 10 is greater than 9, so return true. This last example, 10 is less than 9. Again, we're not stating that. That's not a statement of fact. It's just going to return true or false, whether that is true or false. So in this case, 10 is not less than 9, so that's false. So it'll return false. I know it seems weird, but evaluates it and then returns it. So for example, ten is greater than 9. If I run that, see, it returns true. If I change this to 19 and run it, comes back and tells us false. It doesn't have a whole lot of direct purpose in that kind of situation. It's used in combination with other options. Like here, we got a 4x in the range, -5 to 6. It'll go through and do all this code. We'll talk more about for loops later. If I want an if statement, I could put an if statement in here. So if I said x is greater than y, then I'd do something. By the way, if you add something new in there like that, to make sure everything's underneath that if or for or while, you'd have to space them over like that. Takes you a while to get used to the spacing in Blender, but then it just seems to be clean. Okay, so that'll only do this if x is greater than y. So again, this is a true or false. So it's asking, is this greater than this? And if it is, then it'll do the lines of code underneath it. If it isn't, then it'll drop through. So like I said, the Boolean expression, these don't make a whole lot of sense, but they will make a lot more sense later on. Here's our different operators. We got our math operations. Plus is addition, minus is subtraction. Our asterisk is multiplication. Slash is a division. Percent is a modulus. That gives you a remainder. The two asterisks are exponents, and slash is floor division. You see it says for floor division, rounds result down to the nearest whole number. Round down means you always go down to the smaller integer. So 15 divided by 2 gives us 7.5. Normally, with normal rounding, we'd go up to 8. 7.5 rounds to 8. But again, when we're doing the floor division, then that's going to take us down. So go down to 7. I'm going to ignore those assignment operators. I don't like them. Here's all of our comparisons. To do an equals equals, you do this. Not equals, greater than, less than, greater than equal to, less than equal to. So those are symbols you would use. Logical operators, if you got two things or two or more things to check, you can use an and. So you're checking if x is less than 5 and x is less than 10. Then you're doing something. Now over here, if x is less than 5 or x is less than -4. It says returns true if one of the statements is true. So if x is less than 5, then that'll return true. And since it's nowhere here, this can either be true or false. As long as one of them is true, then it'll do it. And not just as opposite. Identity, membership, bitwise. Okay. Here we got an if else. And maybe every third house, if you're creating a city generator, every third house you don't want to do. You want it to be a vacant lot. Maybe every random house you don't want to do. So there's different ways you can use an if statement. Let's see how to import. We need to import a random at top. There it is. Import random. Okay, I'm gonna do a border select. Select all those, do an X for delete, clean them out. There we go. So random. Um, Usually you have to do something more than that. That looks like that'd work. I think either way I'm gonna use this one. So X is gonna be controlled by that. Y equals random dot next int 6. Import random. Rand int. Okay, let's try that. Didn't like something there. Y equals random. Oh, Zero comma helps actually read. Oh, I saw my X if X is greater than Y here. No, I'm just getting worse. Oh, close parentheses. And you notice they're appearing randomly in terms of my Y values. So if you're trying to achieve a random effect as in like trees, then that's how you do it. Is there any questions on that so far? Okay, that's not a bad place to stop. Next time we're going to get more into the for loop and while loop and try to create more programmatically. See what all we can do with the coding. And probably then the time after that, next week, we'll have it that first and only test over the programming portion. And I'll give you an assignment next time so you can practice with that. But we'll go ahead and stop there.